Hello, English learners. This is Learn English with Brandon, and today I am going to give you a little bit of a listening exercise to hear me speak about Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton, the current election process, in my opinion, of the big picture. And if you don't know what the big picture is or what this means, I have a video discussing that phrasal verb already recorded for you. Okay, so as you know, Donald Trump has been elected. He's been in office for about 3 weeks now, and the media is blasting him over every single television screen. Okay, many people really wanted Hillary Clinton to become president. Me personally, I really wanted Bernie Sanders to become president. Okay, I watched him very closely in the primaries when he was running against Hillary Clinton. And there were some very unusual things that happened in the political field of the United States. For example, I think it was 80,000 votes or 90,000 votes in Brooklyn, New York, that disappeared, and these votes came particularly. These votes would have come from particularly minority voters, such as Latin Americans, perhaps African Americans as well. And Brooklyn wasn't the only place where this happened. It happened in Phoenix, Arizona. It happened in Washington State. It happened, I believe, in Oregon as well. So perhaps there were as many as millions of votes that just disappeared from the system. Votes that could have likely favored Bernie Sanders. Now, Bernie Sanders lost the primaries, and I was very disappointed because I am not in favor of Hillary Clinton, nor am I in favor of Donald Trump. But to me, Hillary Clinton, in my opinion, she does represent the establishment. And so does Trump, in my opinion. He just represents a different part of the establishment. Hillary Clinton was backed by millionaires and billionaires, and Trump is a billionaire, and he's also backed by billionaires and millionaires alike. So, in my opinion, what I see happening is controversy between these two entities of society, where you have one portion of an oligarchy, and an oligarchy is a ruling class. You have one portion of an oligarchy that is in disagreement with another portion, and I feel like this is what Donald Trump represents. Now, I have no proof of this, but it's more or less just an intuitive feeling, and I also think Brexit is another example. And perhaps we might be seeing more of this in the world today. Now, you might be thinking, but Hillary Clinton was such a better choice than Donald Trump. And I've heard a lot of people say that, and I'm sincerely sorry for this, but I haven't heard an argument that really supports that claim. Now, I am not suggesting that Trump was a better choice. I'm not making any suggestion on that question. I don't know. I honestly don't know. And the reason why I say this has to do with the Clinton administration in the early 90s. Now, if you were a conservative in the early 90s, you didn't like Bill Clinton because he took money away from the military and his situation with Monica Lewinsky. Personally, I don't really care about somebody's personal life. I think that was blown out of proportion, and every president is guilty of it. Oh, also, if you were a conservative in the 90s, you probably looked at Bill Clinton as somebody who smoked marijuana, and that being such a negative thing for a president to do. But if you look at the drugs affiliated with the Bush family, perhaps we just should leave that argument out. Now, the reason why I didn't like and why I don't like the Clinton dynasty is because of what they did to the minority class in the early 90s. The Clintons were praised for reducing welfare, And what they did was they changed the definition of what it meant to be in poverty. For instance, if you made $18,000 per year, then if you made less than $18,000 per year, it might have been $18,452, or it's around this figure. If you made less than that, you qualified for government assistance, such as food, maybe something to help you with your shelter costs, your apartment or your home. So what they did was they changed that definition, or they lowered the threshold down to 14,000. So what this did was it took a lot of money that was going to these people who need it, and this particularly minority families, African Americans, Latinos. It took them off the list from being eligible to receive benefits from the government. I think this was completely unfair. I never lived in a situation, thankfully, for being in the need of receiving these funds or this money. But a lot of people lost this money that they needed a lot. Now, the other thing that happened in parallel with this is that Hillary Clinton, pushed this idea of super predators, right? That's the exact wording that she used, super predators. And she was referring to young African American males as being this ferocious type of criminal. So if you look at the demographics of who lost their rights to government funding to help them survive, to help them eat and live, and then compare that with the demographics of people who were being put in jail, it's the same neighborhoods. And if you put two and two together, you might think that, well, if we take money away from a community, that crime is going to go up. Now, if you look at prisons being privatized institutions, then you might think, well, this makes sense. This makes sense. This is an economically viable solution to making more money if you are a shareholder in the prison industry, in the privatized prison industry. Not only can we get government money from one area and put it into another, but we can get a lot of people put in jail to get the proper funding to run these prisons and make more money this way. Now, is that the truth? Is that the whole reason why? No, I'm not saying that is the whole reason why, but that is a part of the picture. That is a part of what happened. This is one reason why I don't like the Clinton family. The other reason is because they got big money into politics. So the way that I look at it is, with Bill Clinton pushing to get big money into politics for lobbyists, if it wasn't for that, then maybe Dick Cheney wouldn't have become vice president with George Bush. And if you look at this, I mean, come on, you have the CEO of the largest weapons defense company being in the position of vice president. And we don't really question that in the United States. Not many people talk about that. Some people do, but as a majority, we don't really talk about that. And then George Bush Jr. and Dick Cheney started one of the longest wars in all of American history. And what has resulted from it? It has not helped the average person in the United States. And it's made lives incredibly worse. If they're lucky enough to be alive, it's made people's lives incredibly worse in these areas where these wars have happened. Now, under Obama, people say Obama was so wonderful and so great, and I might suggest that Obama could have been the best president in my lifetime, but that's not saying much. That's not saying much. He tried to raise taxes on the wealthy, and he made a public effort to do that shortly after he was elected, and I think that that's incredible for a president to do. However, he's decreased the amount of privacy that the general public has. You could say that he's attacked certain freedoms, just like every president has. And he was also a big pusher of the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership Free Trade Agreement. And that is something that I don't really feel is necessary to benefit the average person of the globe. NAFTA hasn't really helped anybody, and the way that I see it is it's just something that helps big corporations. Now, Donald Trump was not for the TPP. He stopped it. I do think that's a good thing, but the reason why he stopped it, I am completely unsure of, and I think it has to do more or less with his personal relations with China. Trump seems to be really against China, and I've heard different opinions about the Chinese currency. Some people say that it's Western forces that are keeping the currency low, and people in the West are saying it's China that's keeping its currency low. If you watch the media closely and you try to keep an open mind, you probably realize that it's difficult to know who to believe. The information that we see on CNN, NBC, or Fox News is fairly different from what we might see on BBC, and then all that information is going to be somewhat different than what we would see on Russia Today. So I hope that this is a little bit enlightening for you, that you can hear what it sounds like of somebody who I feel I have a fairly open mind about this subject. I hope you found this beneficial for listening. Please post any comments or questions below. I will do my best to answer them and perhaps make another video answering those questions. Thank you for coming to my channel.